The next time you're dealing with termites, stop wasting thousands of dollars on extermination crews. Seriously, if you just walk into any random hardware store or swing by the local home improvement warehouse near your house and wander over to the most obscure bottom shelf in the corner, I guarantee you'll find a plain-looking white powder. This stuff straight up deletes termites. It has always been the most brutally simple, ultimate killer known to man, and even if termites evolved for another 10,000 years, they could never develop a resistance to it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jarrett Min. Every day, I'm here exposing the everyday secrets they don't want you to know. I bet a lot of you guys are super curious right now. Like, what on earth is this stuff? It's boric acid. Way back in 1702, chemists isolated this compound from natural borax. It's not some heavily patent-protected trade secret cooked up on a modern industrial assembly line, and it's definitely not some dangerous, illegal biochemical weapon. It's literally just a naturally occurring mineral compound found in rocks, soil, and volcanic springs out in nature. Fast forward to the early 20th century. As cities were booming, pest problems started getting seriously out of hand. California entomologists back then started hunting for a safe is less than #0. 1 hash is greater than effective bug killer. They ran this classic, super famous test where they sprinkled this white boric acid powder right along the main highways where cockroaches were swarming in military barracks. The results absolutely blew everyone's minds. Every single cockroach that crawled over or touched that powder was dead within 72 hours. Not a single one survived. No joke. Then, in 1934, some top-tier researchers at the University of California decided to take things to the next level and run a hardcore test on insanely destructive subterranean termites. They were shocked to discover that if a termite colony just came into contact with borax or boric acid powder, the mortality rate for the entire colony skyrocketed to 80% in just 1 to 3 weeks. And when they cranked up the experiment, treating wood with a 5% boric acid solution and letting the termites chow down on it, the results were even more insane. A 100% total wipeout of the termites in 4 days. You couldn't find a single one left breathing. Whether you're looking at research from Japan or Australia, scientific studies all over the globe have repeatedly backed this up. It only takes a 1% concentration of boric acid to aggressively crush the termite wood consumption rate down below 5%. Compare that to untreated wood, where the consumption rate is over 80%. Because it's so safe and incredibly stable, is less than #0. 1 hash is greater than the United States EPA, officially registered it as a legal pesticide way back in 1948, and is now used in over 500 commercial products. So, why does a multi-$1,000 chemical pest control contract look like a massive, stupid tax compared to a $3 bottle of boric acid? It all comes down to boric acid's absolutely overpowered, next-level kill mechanics. A lot of people still think pesticides work by gassing bugs with smelly toxic fumes or melting their organs with harsh chemical poisons. But boric acid's method of killing? It relentlessly targets a bug's ultimate fatal flaw. It's a flawless double tap of pure physical damage combined with their own biological instincts. In the microscopic world, these plain-looking white boric acid crystals actually look like millions of incredibly tiny, razor-sharp shards of glass. The fatal weakness of an insect, like a termite, is that their exoskeleton is relatively thin and they constantly have to squeeze through tight cracks in wood or crawl through narrow mud tubes. The second they crawl over an area dusted with boric acid, these microscopic, razor-sharp crystals violently stab right into their exoskeleton and latch onto them like glue. The most brilliant part of this combo kill, though, relies on the insect's own instincts. Whether it's termites or roaches, they have this innate, compulsive need to groom themselves is less than #0. 25 hash is greater than. They constantly use their mouths to lick and clean their bodies and antennae. With one lick, they literally swallow those jagged crystals right into their stomachs. Once boric acid hits a termite's gut, it instantly starts shredding their digestive and nervous systems. It severely disrupts their metabolism, making it physically impossible for them to absorb water or nutrients. Ultimately, it causes these pests to completely dehydrate from the inside out, turning them into dry little mummies. This is a purely physical mechanism. And that is exactly why I said that even if termites evolved for another 10,000 years, it's physically impossible for them to build an immunity to being physically sliced open and dehydrated. But wait, it gets crazier. The most mind-blowing part is how boric acid weaponizes the termites' own social behavior to create a silent, colony-wiping plague. Termites are highly social, colony-living insects. They have a natural instinct to feed each other and, honestly, to eat their own dead. When a foraging termite gets hit by boric acid and drags its powder-covered, poisoned body deep back into the nest to die, its healthy buddies aren't going to pass up a free protein snack. They immediately rush over and devour the corpse. And that triggers an unbelievable chain reaction. The toxicity of the boric acid doesn't just vanish when the first termite dies, is less than #0. One hash is greater than it gets passed on from one body to the next as the corpses are eaten. The second wave of termites eats the dead, dehydrates, and dies. Then, the third wave eats the second wave's bodies. Boric acid acts like a plague, spreading silently but incredibly lethally through the dark tunnels of the entire colony. Scientists back in the day actually called this phenomenon the gift that keeps on killing. One single termite touches the powder, and it ends up taking out the entire massive family tree. So, if Mother Nature handed us this perfect, zero-cost, safe, and eco-friendly pest control playbook, why do we almost never hear exterminators recommending it? Well, we have to rip the lid off the massive profit conspiracy driving the $28 billion pest control industry. The numbers don't lie, guys. Here in the United States, if you actually tally up the property damage caused by termites chewing through homes, it's honestly more devastating than tornadoes, fires, and earthquakes combined. Every single year, around 600,000 families have their houses silently chewed to pieces by termites. If a regular homeowner spots termite damage and calls out a contractor for an estimate, you're easily looking at taking a hit of $3,000 or more just for the structural repairs. And that doesn't even include the exterminator's overly complicated treatment plan is less than #0. One hash is greater than, which usually tacks on another $1,000 to $3,000. But the thing that makes regular folks the most desperate and furious? Most home insurance policies. When you take that massive bill to your insurance company, they're going to coldly tell you that termite damage is classified as a preventable maintenance issue and is completely excluded from your coverage, which means you are entirely on the hook, paying out of pocket like a total sucker for this massive mess. And right when you're in the middle of that extreme financial panic, the pest control giants roll out their absolute specialty, fear marketing. They precisely weaponize homeowners' fear and their laziness when it comes to home maintenance. When the bug guy shows up at your house, he'll use this super serious voice to tell you how incredibly dire the situation is, and then heavily pressure you into letting them pump these so-called professional-grade only chemical liquids right into your foundation and wall voids. Seriously, take a calm look at those high-priced chemical cocktails sometime. A lot of the time, that liquid they're pumping into the dirt is this incredibly cloudy, dead grayish-brown color, and it reeks of synthetic chemicals mixed with harsh preservatives. Many of these agents, like fipronil, might be legal when applied correctly, but at the end of the day, they are highly synthetic chemicals that carry the potential risk of contaminating groundwater and messing up the local ecosystem. Plus, these pest control companies will hit you up every single year for hundreds or even thousands of dollars in renewal or annual inspection fees. Honestly, they just show up once a year, take a quick glance around, spray some chemical water that cost them a few pennies, and comfortably walk away with your hard-earned cash. It's Wall Street's absolute favorite business model: recurring, scalable revenue. If you are sick of being repeatedly dragged through the mud by sketchy companies, and if you don't want to be a human ATM funding the exterminators every year, then you need to pay very close attention to what I'm about to say. Because the absolute last thing the industry giants want you to know is how to use $3 to take back control and protect your own home. This is a super detailed, step-by-step, foolproof guide. Before we start, we gotta talk safety. Even though boric acid has incredibly low toxicity, honestly, it's less toxic than table salt. It is still a substance meant to kill bugs, and breathing in too much of the dust will irritate your respiratory tract. So when you're handling the powder, please make sure you're wearing rubber gloves and an N95 dust mask. And when you're applying it inside your house, you have to ensure you're only dusting hidden corners where kids and pets absolutely cannot reach it. The first, most effective method is called the dry powder dusting method. This is an absolute game changer for wall voids and tiny cracks. You need to hit up the hardware store and buy a bottle of pure boric acid powder. You can usually grab a huge bottle for like $3 to $5. Then, spend another couple of bucks on a super cheap manual bulb duster, or honestly, even a soft plastic squeeze bottle with a pointed tip will work. Your targets are all those dark, damp cracks around the house where termites love to hide. Aim the nozzle right into the cracks along your baseboards, the wall voids behind your electrical outlets, and the gaps where plumbing pipes come through the walls, and give it a good, hard puff. Now, here's the fatal mistake a lot of people make. And this is the core secret to making this work. The powder has to be as thin as possible. The dust you puff out needs to be a layer so incredibly thin it's almost invisible to the naked eye. Do not think that more is better. If you dump massive piles of powder in the corners, like little mountains, the termites aren't stupid. Once they sense a giant obstacle in front of them, they'll just detour around it, and your whole setup is completely useless. It's only when the powder is practically invisible that the termites will unsuspectingly walk right over it, letting those lethal crystals grab onto them so they can happily carry them back to the nest and trigger a chain reaction of death. The second method is the liquid penetration defense method. This is primarily for protecting exposed, unpainted wood around your house. You're going to need a gallon of warm or hot water. Dump in about a cup of boric acid powder and stir it like crazy with a stick until the powder is completely dissolved and the liquid is totally clear. Pour this solution into a regular household spray bottle or one of those pump action garden sprayers. Then, you got to put on a headlamp and crawl up into your attic, down into your basement, or into the crawl space under your house. You're going to aggressively spray this solution all over the exposed wooden beams, joists, and sill plates, especially the wood framing that's close to the soil, and the holes where wires and pipes run through the wood. When the water hits the unpainted wood, the solution will wick right down the wood's capillaries, deep into the fibers. A few hours later, when the water naturally evaporates and dries, those borate crystals will be permanently locked inside the wood. It's basically like wrapping your wood in an invisible suit of toxic armor. From that day on, any clueless termite that dares to take a bite is going to find out that its first mouthful of sawdust is also its last meal on Earth. The third method is way more proactive, the DIY sweet trap bait method. This uses the termites' own greedy appetites to launch an offensive attack. You need to find a small container and mix some boric acid powder with some damp, shredded cardboard or sawdust. A termite's absolute favorite food is cellulose, so cardboard is basically a gourmet feast for them. To make it even more irresistible, you can mix in just a tiny bit of syrup or honey. This massively increases how sticky and attractive the mixture is. Put this bait mixture into a plastic box with a few small holes punched in it and place it right near areas where you've seen termite activity before, like right next to those mud tubes on the outside of your foundation walls. The second the termites smell that mix of cellulose and sugar, they go into an absolute feeding frenzy. They'll gorge themselves on it and then carry those lethally dusted chunks right back down into the deep underground colony to personally hand feed the queen. Once the queen dies, the entire colony totally collapses. There was actually this super dedicated homeowner out in Georgia who battled termites for years. He tried all the expensive services and nothing ever fully cured it. Finally, he used this exact DIY bait station trick. It cost him less than $8 total. He consistently swapped out the bait for a few months, and miraculously, he had zero termite activity in his house for the first time in 7 years. Now, if the situation in your house has already deteriorated to a highly severe level, like the termites have been deeply entrenched inside your load-bearing walls, undiscovered for years, the beams are completely hollowed out from the inside, you can poke the wood with your finger and it crumbles and falls apart like a cracker, or the structural safety of your home is literally compromised. Then I have to be completely honest with you. Right now, this $3 bag of powder might be the only thing that can save your house.